I'm letting drama go. I'm doing me. But it's like, are you doing you or are you running away from your problems? We're really in control of our lives. It's really up to us. When you have that realization, it's so powerful.
Yeah.
It is so powerful. And it makes you feel like you can do anything. When my heart and my mind met each other, that's when I saw the transformation of me and my dad's relationship.
From SGI USA, I'm Cassidy Bradford, and this is Buddhability, the weekly series where I talk with Buddhists from all walks of life about the power we each have to change our lives and the world around us. Markell, welcome to Buddhability. Thank you for joining me on this Friday, late afternoon, not quite evening yet. To start things off, you can just introduce yourself. So tell me a little bit about like who you are right now, but also, maybe the story of how you started practicing Buddhism, a little bit about your childhood.
Yes, so thank you so much, Cassie. So my name is Markell Holliday. I go by Kel.
Oh, I didn't know that. I love that.
Yes. Okay. So I go by Kel.
Okay.
My actually entertainment name is Kel Malice. So I'm just turned 30 years old. I live here in Atlanta, Georgia. I love living here. And, it's so the culture, I love the culture here in Atlanta. It just speaks to me, as well as just the LGBTQ life out here. It's just amazing. But other than that, though, I think like one of the main things, I really started, so I was born into the practice, right? Okay. So like my mother and my grandmother actually started practicing first.
Wow.
I actually had the opportunity of starting my practice in Hawaii. And then,
Did you grow up there?
Yeah, so grew up in Hawaii. So I am a military baby.
Got it. Okay.
Kind of moved back and forth between Georgia and Hawaii majority of my life. And so when I was living in Hawaii, we started practicing as well in Hawaii. My mother and my grandmother started practicing there. And then when I moved to Georgia, around like back and forth, but I would say permanently around like the end of middle school, beginning of high school. And so I moved to Augusta, Georgia, and that's where I basically graduated high school, met some of my closest friends. And then after that, kind of went into the military and started practicing once I got into the military by myself. I could say, like, kind of found my own practice, kind of separate from my mother and my grandmother.
Yeah. I think it's really, it's a very common experience for people that like grow up around Buddhism. Some people are like from a young age, like, oh, this is it, I'm going to practice. But I think for a lot of us, it's kind of like a journey. And like once we really hit some difficult moments in our life where we like have something we really want, then we're like, okay, let me like really give this Buddhism a shot. And it takes time too. At first, sometimes you're like, okay, I'm like kind of doing this. And then later you might be like, oh, I'm really like, I'm serious about my practice, So today we're really going to focus on facing kind of your reality, facing your problems head on instead of running away from them. And like when you and I talked before, that's really like kind of a theme of your life, or maybe I'll say like a theme of your 20s. So, so to help folks get to just kind of know you better, maybe you can tell me like what that tendency looked like kind of growing up and maybe into just like the early 20s kind of period.
Yeah, I think, so growing up, I come from a military household, so I have very, very strict parents. My father was very, very strict. He did not play about grades. You have to have A's and B's. You can't come in the house without that. So my mother and my father are not together.
Okay.
So once they kind of like, they split when I was younger. They got divorced when I was younger. And so my dad later married my stepmother right now, who I love dearly, just as my mother. I guess you could say what we were just in a very structured household, right?
Yeah.
And it just was no room for any type of tipsy-topsy things going on.
Yeah.
But, also too, I think growing up, like, my dad was so strict sometimes that it lacked like an emotional connection between us, right? So he was looking at it in a parent aspect and more so as a parent aspect. And in sense of that, out of being a parent is love,
Yeah.
And so At that time, though, me being a young age, I don't see it as that, right? I
Yeah.
see it as you're trying to ruin my life, you're trying to control my
Mm-hmm.
life,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and so
Totally.
and so kind of growing up with that mindset, and all the way up into high school, I kind of was just like fed up, right?
Mm.
I just felt like, gosh, this guy is like super controlling, like let me live my life.
Yeah.
So going into high school, after high school, I actually got accepted into Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I know I was going to school, I was going to go to school to be a pilot, and study
Wow.
aeronautical science. And I received scholarships there, and a myriad of other scholarships too.
Hmm.
Um, However, though, I did not go. I canceled that out. I just didn't want to be under my dad's wing anymore. So if it had to do with anything
Hmm.
that my dad had to support me in, I didn't want to be a part of it no more. Right? I
Mm.
just wanted to
Yep.
cut ties with my father, period.
Hmm.
So I just was like, you know what? I want to go into the military. Like,
Wow.
but then again, there goes that moving away from stuff, right? Because
Yep.
I really went into the military. Honestly, I mean, people can say, "Oh, I went in to serve my country. I went in to do this."
Uh-huh.
Great. I went in because I was ready to move away from my father. Like, I did not want to be around him.
Yeah.
And it really just stemmed, as well, just from my lifestyle. I came out as being a gay man,
Mm-hmm.
very young,
Hmm.
around 15, 16 years old.
Hmm.
I came out to my father, and my mother and other people
Hmm.
around. And so I think that also just kind of stemmed a disconnect within me and my father at that time as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so with all of those things going on, I'm like, yeah, shift me off. Like, let me go far
Far
away, okay?
away.
Like, let's go. And then when I was in the military, I got stationed in Hawaii. It was one of my duties.
Wow.
My first duty station was Hawaii,
Wow.
which is very significant, kind of a full circle moment.
Totally.
Growing up in Hawaii, family there, my cousins,
Mm.
my aunt, But at this point, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm an adult, and I'm
Mm.
fresh in the military. I'm like, um, really just trying to understand what I'm doing with my life, right?
Totally.
Because I really kind of took a
Mm.
real major trajectory, when it came to going to the military, because that was not one of my plans. It seriously was not.
Hmm.
But just that sense of wanting to get away and run away from my dad, the situations with them, having to confront that, it felt so good to do it. And it felt like the right thing at the time.
Yeah.
I went through a lot of different things in the military that made me understand, like, wow, you actually, there's actually these things that like you can't run away from now real quick, right? But I
Mm.
found a way, some type of way, right? And this is just this is just like, this is the like, surface of my life, right?
Yeah.
So like in the military, I since that wasn't something that was in my heart that I really wanted to do, I didn't really take it serious. And I had
Mm.
a serious job. And so
Yeah.
those two things just does not go in hand, when
Hmm.
you are doing something of that magnitude, and then it's really not in your heart, or it's really not something that you really want to commit to, right?
Yeah.
I kind of went off of course in the military, just like, kind of deviant a little
Mm.
bit, and a little rebellious in my own way.
Hmm.
But those are still some of my natural tendencies that I have,
Hmm.
right? And then like, casting myself away, when I
Yeah.
feel like, it's too much, or, I don't feel like I belong in this space or something, you
Yeah.
know?
Hmm.
And so coming from that, I really kind of was like wanting to run away from the military. I'm like, I want to get out the military now.
Yep.
But I would say that, but then I'm like, I still have bills to pay. Like, I still got a life
Yeah.
to live.
Hmm.
And it's not like you can
Totally.
just say, hey, I quit the military. I quit today. You can't do
Yeah.
that, right? Since my life really was in that space, and
Hmm.
I really wasn't feeling it, it was like the actions that I were doing just was not coinciding with me being a soldier in the military.
Yeah.
And so sooner than later, I ended up being discharged out of the military.
Hmm.
Um, and so I went through a kind of like a really, really rough time in that time frame. It
Hmm.
really kind of happened quick, right? It was just like, I got in trouble about something, and,
Hmm.
that just kind of led to the next thing. And, out of that, I was out of there.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I went through a very depressed stage of my life. You know, feeling like, okay, well, you got what you wanted. You're out of the military now, but now you're homeless. You can't, you don't have a home. You don't have a car anymore. You don't have any income. Living in a very expensive place like Hawaii. I was lost. I was totally lost. Like I didn't know what to value in my life at that time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so those things, really kind of takes a toll. And yeah, and I really was like, okay, well, I have to figure out what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
um, Kind of got into just the mix of succumbing to drugs and alcohol during that time frame, really, really heavy.
Yeah.
I think at that moment, that's when I really was like, okay, let me like start reaching back out to like like some of my friends who practice Buddhism here in Hawaii. And honestly, during that time, I actually already had people like reaching out to me that practice Buddhism in Hawaii at the time. But me being in such like a low life condition,
Yeah.
just like, not in my right headspace, it just wasn't regulating with me. And I
Yeah.
wasn't responding, kind of ducking and dodging. And that's just where my life was at that time,
Totally.
So we had like a long time friend of the family, and she just really took me in. She practiced with my mom and my grandmother when they were in Hawaii. So my mom had known her since she was 19. She really, she was one person that kind of like took my mom in and really
Yeah.
like, helped foster my mom in her Buddhist practice. She's literally have been around 3 generations of my family.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think from her, she really stuck with me, and I just really felt her sincerity, her heart. She really cared about me. She cared about our whole family, seriously. And so after that, like I kind of was more into it. After a while, though, I think like I got like caught up in like the club life out there in Hawaii, and eventually like kind of getting caught back up in drugs. So like during this whole time, I'm not talking to my father.
Wow.
So
Okay.
like I don't have a connection with my father. Actually, that whole time, like people are like calling me, like you need to call your father, you need to talk to your dad. And then me and my dad ended up talking around around right before I actually was about to move back. And then I finally went to my dad. I'm like, Dad, like I don't have nowhere to go. Like I don't know what I'm doing out here. I need to come back home. We haven't talked in a long time, and on top of that, we're still kind of edgy on our relationship, right? Like we're not fully in with each other, but like, you're my
Yeah.
dad, I'm your son type of thing.
Yeah.
So that, uh,
Totally. Yep.
I guess that was one of the things that really, was kind of like the beginning stage of that, of me and my dad kind of like connecting it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, so I think like, just out of running out of so many excuses for my own life and kind of like running away from things like, like, okay, I don't want to deal with this no more. Like, that's just been my life. Like, it
Yep.
feels like when something's hard or when I have something hard going on or, difficult or there's a challenge that's right here in front of my face, like the quickest thing to me is like, I can disappear. Like Houdini. Like, so, and, I really took that and like kind of embedded that as my superpower. Like I know how to go.
Yeah, as a point of pride. Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, so I ended up, at that point moving back in with my father and, in
Wow.
my 20s. And so and being in Augusta, Georgia, it's very different city for me. Even though I was partially raised there, and I do consider that my hometown, second, like a second hometown or whatever.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it was just a very different scene, and it's a little slower than Atlanta. And so really connected back with like a lot of old friends. And at this time, I was kind of like laxed again in my practice, right? So throughout this whole time, you would hear this roller coaster of my
Yeah.
practice. I basically have, my friends around me, my father, and we're not having the best relationship at this time.
Yeah.
We are not, it's kind of still on the rocky surfaces, and we're
Mm-hmm.
just not seeing eye to eye for simple things. Like, I mean, simple things. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, yeah, and I still had that mindset, like, oh, I'm grown now. I've lived out my own already. I'm just moving
Mm-hmm.
back. Like, I don't want to hear about no curfew. Like, I don't want to hear about, I have to come to
Yep.
your house at this time. Like, I've been coming in at 4 o'clock in the morning the last 3 years.
Yep.
Like, and there's just so many other rules, and not having my friends over, and just like, even though my dad was still like some of my friends, whatever the case may be, but it's just different, right? You're not
Yeah.
living on your own. You're living back with your parent.
Yep.
And so, if anybody have ever experienced that,
they know exactly what it is. Yeah. You're like, wait, am I like back to being 13 again?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever seen a movie called 17 Again with T and Tamara, but and then they like their grandparents like go back in time, but like okay, like did I just go back in time? And so me, so one thing one of my things that I kind of like I'm really challenged with in my life is like anger. I have like my own anger issues, and don't have patience like that, and a very low tolerance for things at times. It really doesn't matter who you are, what you do, kind of thing. It's just that if my life condition is in that space, that's like my my lower kind of like my regular tendencies of my life,
Totally.
natural tendencies of my life. But I challenge it every day, so many different things. But it's like in the course of with my father, he's kind of hothead, and like I'm a hothead, so
so together it's a lot.
It's like molten lava coming together. And so I mean, at times, we would get into these huge arguments. This is my parent, like this is crazy, but like at the same time, I still felt like I had a right to do that. Like I felt like no, like it was like my ego was I was so consumed with my ego that I felt like no, like he talked to me this type of way, so I'm about to say that I'm about to get right back with you.
Yeah. Yep.
Without any sense of respect for my father's life, at the time. And so, we would just get into it about just the craziest things sometimes, and really just childish things. At this time too, like I'm like dating someone, and we're just like going through our own challenges in our relationship. I mean, really, really deep challenges, and just wasn't on the best page with my partner at the time. So it's like both of these things are happening. It's like, who do I run to? And yeah, so I felt at that time like this is so much. Like I don't even want to like be around no one right now. Like I don't want to be around anyone. And I at the time I was in college, so I was trying to go to school and finish my degree, and then going back and forth between my dad's house and my partner's house at the time was a lot. And then also in terms of my dad still wasn't very comfortable with me being gay. And so he wasn't really like that inviting, like he wasn't disrespectful.
But wasn't like, come on over for dinner.
Right. No, none of that. Like, come on over. No. So at that time, I really kind of just felt, like I said, just like, like I don't want to be around anybody. I just want to basically go off, and I'm leaving you alone. I'm going to leave you alone, and I'll deal with you if I want to, type of thing. But then I also still ended up getting involved with my practice in Augusta. And throughout that, I wasn't still solidified in my practice, if that was said. Like I really wasn't taking Buddhism as like, this is the way I'm going to solve my problems, is through using this type of, strategy, if you would say, right?
Yeah.
Still using the strategy of Markell Holliday.
It's like the Buddhism is like a thing that I kind of do on the side, like as a side dish, rather than like this is my way of life. Yeah.
Right. And then at this point, I would only chant if I needed something. Really, honestly, like I need this job. Nam-myoho-renge-kyo,
Yep.
Or something's going crazy, or I need to chant real quick. Like it wasn't a rhythm of my life at this time, I kind of ran away from my father again and, you know, left the home. So it was kind of like everything was recycling all over again. It was like when I left the first time, it was like the same thing happening all over again with different people in just a different year.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So, you know, I don't know if you ever
Oh
experienced
my
that. Like,
God.
just like,
I totally. I mean, I think like anybody that is listening, like whether you practice or you don't, or you've practiced a long time or a short time, like you probably recognize that you have these kind of like the most common one is like, wow, why am I always dating the same kind of person? You know, why am I always attracting this kind of person? We
yes,
repeat these because it's our karma, right? We like repeat these kind of
right,
cycles until we transform the karma. Yeah.
right,
So there
right,
are many
exactly,
like that. I look
exactly.
back, I'm like, oof, how many times did I go through that cycle before I was like, wait a second, I don't want to go through this cycle again.
Right. Like, how many times do you have to go through this until you get the point, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and that was basically like right now, like I'm handling my issues just by, you know, going out, you know, hanging out, just
Yeah.
nothing substantial really in my life, right?
Yeah.
Just things that are just temporarily going to
Yeah.
change my mood.
Escapism in the moment. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And honestly, I'm really saying that right now, but in
Hmm.
that time, I didn't realize it as that, right? I think
Totally.
that
Having
I'm living my
fun.
best life and I'm letting drama go. I'm doing me, as people would say. But it's like,
Yes.
are you doing you or are you running away from your problems and you're not
Mm-hmm.
facing yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of had to really dig through that and kind of, I don't know, I just really was like, just like I just did that sigh.
Yeah.
Um, but
Okay. I guess I'm gonna face this. Yeah.
you know, so yeah, so at this time though, I moved away from my father. You know,
Mm.
our relationship is still not good. And I'm actually now have moved to Atlanta with my partner at this time. I was like, you know, I really want to dance professionally. Like I really want to
Mm.
really pursue like my dancing career.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the time, I was like going back and forth because I was working at this place in Augusta, and then I was like going to dance classes in Atlanta, but I didn't move to Atlanta.
Wow.
So
Hmm.
I was literally driving back and forth between Atlanta and Augusta, and it's like probably
Mm-hmm.
like a two hour, like 2 hour and 10 minute drive each
Mm-hmm.
way. So obviously got tired of that. I ended up transferring my job up to Atlanta, and I started living up there. And at the time, me and my partner at the time were just I'm still in this like in and out relationship. We're just
Yeah.
I mean going through the motions.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, Atlanta's a big place of you know, so first of all, it's a big place. And then
Yeah.
second of all, it's really big, you know, when it comes to LGBTQ lifestyles, very big queer community. And so, you know, a lot of insecurities comes as being a gay man for
Hmm.
me living in this city because there's so many beautiful men here,
Hmm.
very attractive men.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have, of course, you know, I have my own insecurities about my own flaws and my own
Yeah.
self. And so I really kind of like honed in on those and it affected our relationship even more.
Yeah.
And at this point, it was like right around 50K.
Mm-hmm. Which
So
for people that don't
for
know what
people,
that
so
was.
yeah, so we had a festival, amazing festival where we gathered 50,000 youth around the nation. And it was basically like a big cultural performance.
Yeah.
And so I had the opportunity to lead the dance portion of
Mm.
the performance. So I was really, at this point, I am dived into my practice, right? So
Hmm.
I had started this point now I moved in with my aunt. And so my aunt
Mm.
also practices Buddhism. She was it's my mom's sister. She basically kind of just took me in under her
Mm.
wing. And she really just was like, you know, if you have all these things going on in your life, you know, this is amazing practice that you can be able to really dive
Mm.
into. She's like, it's not foreign to you, you know, you're
Yeah.
raised in this and you know, and I'm just like, at this point, I'm like, you know what? I have nothing to lose. I
Hmm.
have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Like I've been kicked out of the military, dealt with a horrible relationship. Me and my father's relationship is not the best right now. I'm
Hmm.
broke. I don't have nothing for myself.
Hmm.
So what else do I have?
Yep.
Nothing, right? To do, right? So at that point, like, my auntie's like, you should try like really studying these certain things about this Buddhism. And
Hmm.
so she really told me to dive into the writings of Nichiren Daishonin. And so I really kind of didn't dive into it just right off the bat. But
Yeah.
first, my auntie made it clear that first thing is chanting, right?
Hmm.
So if you don't have the capacity right now to study or
Hmm.
to do activities, start with just chanting
Hmm.
consistently. Try. She's like, challenge yourself to chant every morning and do your
Hmm.
gonyo, and then chant every evening and do
Hmm.
your gonyo.
Hmm.
No matter what.
Hmm.
And so I really took that challenge on.
Hmm.
Um, and then I ended up starting like to study more and really started to understand things about my life and why the hell it was happening the way it was happening.
Mm, mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say a light bulb clicked on, but
Yeah.
I definitely changed the light bulb. That's how I would describe that. And so,
Yeah.
in a sense, changing my mindset, changing my perspective.
Yeah. Which
You
is
know,
like, that is so hard to do. Like, personally, I don't know how people do it if they don't chant. I know people
yeah, me
can,
neither.
but I'm like, if I'm not chanting, I don't know how I can possibly like shift my I'm
I,
so stubborn. Like, to be able to like shift my perspective and like be humble and see kind of the reality of my
right.
tendencies and like without judging myself, so hard. But one thing I was thinking, like hearing your story so far, is that like it's really interesting that you always were like practicing a little bit here and there. Like every time you chant, you're making this cause. So like when you were in Hawaii and you started like kind of re-engaging in your practice, in some ways to me it's like, oh, it's no coincidence that actually you moved back in with your dad, because it
Right.
was like pulling you back to like, no, this is what you have to change, this is what you have to change.
Yeah.
I just think it's like so interesting. But yeah, at that point when you had the like, okay, light bulb didn't totally go off yet, but like you changed it, there was something shifting. Like that process of like kind of seeing yourself clearly, was that like a really long process? Did something happen where it was really swift? And then kind of as part of that, then like what started happening like in your relationship with your dad and partnership and all of that?
I think like a couple years before that, actually, I want to just go back. I
Hmm,
had
yeah.
I had found out that I had HIV, and
Mm,
so when I found that out, um, to be honest, I really wasn't surprised. Uh,
yeah.
because I knew the things that I've been doing, the
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle that I live, and so I really wasn't surprised. I really wasn't too distraught, but I mean, I was at a low point in my life.
Yeah.
It did set me back,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think really from that, and also just feeling like I don't have no type of like life is when I really started to dive into the practice. And I think that
Hmm.
process, what it looked like is like me understanding that all of these things that I'm going through, it's not someone else just doing it to me. It's not like, someone just with this
Hmm.
wand and like, hey, this is gonna happen to you now, and now you're gonna
Hmm.
go through this, and you're
Hmm.
gonna go through this now. It's not like that. And I think I realized it's like you have to do the action. You have to figure out what do you need to do to like make your life better than what it is right now. Then what do you want to see? If you're so miserable, then what are you
Hmm.
going to do about it?
Yeah.
You know, I think that was the moment that
Mm,
really clicked for me, right? Like
yeah.
there's something that needs to be done.
Hmm.
And then, out of reading the writings of Nichiren Shonen, the one thing that really kind of really stuck out to me is that like, we're really the controllers of our lives in a way,
Hmm.
and that's not like a quote or anything,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
just
yeah.
what I've synopsis out of that is like, we're really in control of our lives. It's really up to us,
Hmm.
if we want to do it or not,
Yeah.
you know? And so that when you have that realization, it's so powerful. It is
Yeah.
so powerful, and it makes you feel like you can do anything.
Hmm.
You know, like I really feel like I can do anything. Like I can transform anything. And I still wasn't fully confident in that at that time,
Yeah.
but I still continued to like just push myself. So, at this time, like was really at this, really in depth with the young men in my area,
Mm-hmm.
and was forming all of these wonderful friendships,
Mm-hmm.
which I really needed at the time, because I had
Yeah.
just moved up to Atlanta, and I didn't really know that many people up there like
Mm-hmm.
that, except for like family members and like some people who practice this
Yeah.
Buddhism. One thing that I think that really helped me is that having those friends in faith. So I was like so excited to have these type of connections, you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
um, at this point, like I just was like in between of what I wanted to do as a career. Like, I don't know if I want to dance full time for sure
Mm-hmm.
now, because I'm noticing that like money is not what I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
And then, then it's like I have this background career, in customer service, and then now moving into finance and all of these other aspects. I'm just going through it, going through the motions at that time as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what really propelled my Buddhist practice to another level was preparing for 50K. And so
Mm-hmm.
again, for the festival, I figured out like, this is the spirit behind it is really just like exactly what I just experienced, like not having people beside me, not feeling like I had anyone at the time, or, not even feel like I didn't have anyone, but, just yearning that type of connection with other
Mm-hmm.
people and in real friendships.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up just having an amazing performance.
Mm-hmm.
It was truly amazing. Um, Everything that I stressed about didn't happen, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yep.
But that time frame though, and according to my like personal practice,
Hmm.
I chanted the most I've ever chanted in my life at that time,
Hmm.
because I was really chanting, number one, that one, I can break through something personal in my life. Right. I
Mm-hmm.
really wanted to step into like, more and get more in depth into my dancing,
Mm.
personally, right?
Yeah.
And then as well, like, I just wanted every single person that was doing the dance with us to just enjoy themselves and really be
Mm.
able to see the spirit for themselves, in
Mm.
their own perspective of what it meant to them. And they can really
Mm.
hone in on it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was really chanting with that type of spirit and that type of, determination.
Mm.
So many great things came out of that. And then personally, I ended up getting contracted, and being able to work with a dance company. And
Wow.
yeah, and this dance company was actually ran by a very, very prestigious choreographer in the industry.
Mm.
So I was very kind of hesitant, like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna make it. I didn't
Yeah.
really have too much dancing training wise, as like
Mm.
professionally, or like, even though like I have been dancing like majority of my life, like,
Mm-hmm.
recreationally, I would say, and like,
Yeah.
in other type of ways. So it's always been in my life,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I really mustered up the courage, and I actually went to the auditions, and yeah, I made it into the company,
Mm.
and
Wow.
I was so happy. And so I actually found out right before 50K happened.
Wow.
So it's like, I think it was like a couple of days right before
Oh
50K,
my
I found out.
gosh.
And so like that even just had me on a more like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
Yes, this is the best.
I
Yeah.
can't believe this. And so, yeah. And so I, started dancing and really being able to train with, one of the best choreographers ever.
Hmm.
Thanks so much for him. And he really just opened up a lot of opportunities,
Hmm.
for me and for a lot of other people. At this point, I've really had a solid practice for myself.
Yeah.
As I was chanting for me and my dad's relationship. So I ended up mustering the courage to really first, like, even in my heart, feel that I want to chant for my dad. You know, like I
Hmm.
want to chant for him first, right? Because at first I think I was just chanting for his happiness because that's what I was told to do. You
Yep.
know, chant for his happiness. Like just chant for his
Yep.
happiness in a cliche way. And then I think what really happened is that, like, okay, like, outside of that, I really kind of dived in and like, no, I really care about my dad's life. I really
Hmm.
care about his life. And I started just thinking about so many amazing moments with me and my dad. And I would just think about what I want to see me and my dad's relationship become. And so, yeah, so after like, really like understanding, like I'm literally in front of, really when I was chanting, I was like, I really want to have this amazing relationship with my father. Right. And when I would chant, I was like, oh my God, like, I really love my dad. And then I started like around some of my other friends like noticed like they were like I don't know why they're in this time frame like they were like some of my friends like going through things with their dads, and I started to think like my dad has been in my life my entire life since I was in the womb, right? And so he's never left my side. Even when I didn't want to talk to him for that time frame, he still was reaching out to me. He still was telling, my sister and calling my sister and my mom and them and like, what's going on with him. And, so I really kind of got to a point where I was like, I don't want to feel like this no more. Like, I realized like, I can't truly be happy in my life if I don't have a happy relationship with my father. Yeah. If I don't have a good relationship with my siblings, if I don't have a good relationship with my partner, like I can't, how can I really be absolutely happy? This Buddhism, ensures that when we practice, we can really become absolutely happy and not just like cliche type of absolute happiness or happy. Yeah. When we talk about happiness, it's not cliche. It's like, it's really this happiness that is indomitable. It's unshakable. And I just was starting to like really kind of realize that in certain aspects of my life. And so, yeah, after really kind of like when my heart and my mind met each other to have that for my father, that's when I saw the transformation of me and my dad's relationship. And, then we started just kind of like communicating and, regular basis talking, not too much, like, not too much, but we were in that war with each other,
Yeah.
And
which, hey, that is actual proof of something changing. Yeah.
And, me and my mom, also our relationship was good and my stepmother as well. So, things were kind of really moving in a way. So, and, at this time now I'm still living with my aunt. But then I started dating someone else at the time. And this person that I started dating, we also went to middle school together. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And so basically, after that, we also ended up going to different high schools. And then, we ended up meeting back up. And it's so funny because so out of so many of those years of like in between, and a lot of people don't know this, but like in between the years of me like in the military and then like moving to Atlanta, this particular person, like this guy, he was like always hitting me up on Instagram. And so I felt some type of way. I'm like, aren't you with somebody? Like, you're hitting me up. But then like I was finding out like, well, he's not with this person. Like they're like, stuff like that. So I'm like, okay. And then so like I really never expressed to him, but I was just thinking that all the time. So then like one day he's just like, why don't you ever respond to me? And I'm just like, and me being the person I am, I'm like, who do you think he's talking to? Like, I'm like, who do you think you're talking to? So that sparked me to respond.
Of course.
A little toxic trait of mine. I didn't want to respond to the how was your days and stuff like that. I wanted to respond to the ratchetness. Now and so basically after that, we never stopped talking since that day.
Wow.
Since that day, it's not been one day since March of 2020 that I have not talked to this man.
Wow.
So yeah, and actually, yeah, I've seen him every day. So, but yeah, so we started our relationship, and at this point, like, I'm really in depth with my practice. I was actually supporting guys in my area that I lived in, and really, really encourage them to, really dive into their own practice to really see the full benefits. Because at this point, my life is kind of really twisting around to the like a positive side right now.
Yeah.
And it's not like it just miraculously happened though. And I want people to be clear, it's not like something just snapped and everything was like starting to turn good in my life, right? No, it took a lot of self-realization. And it took a lot of just being real with myself and not thinking about outside things that could affect me. I really had a lot of self-realizations. I had a lot of moments where I just was like, no, I have to change this. Like, I'm not happy. Like, I had to blatantly look at myself in the mirror, like, I'm not happy. Point blank, period. And so yeah, when I would go through, so at that point, that summer was such a crazy significant summer for me. I went back down to Augusta. So I moved back down to Augusta in that time frame, and me and my fiance now, we actually, I'm letting him know like, hey, I'm living in Augusta. We're together now. You got to move down here, or we're not gonna be together because I don't do long distance. I'm very demanding. I can negotiate a little bit, but some things are just non-negotiable for me. And for me, being in a relationship, I have to live with my partner. He literally packed up all his stuff, girl, and he moved down there, girl.
Wow. I mean, there's a reason he's the fiance now.
And yeah, so he moved down there, and I ended up moving in with my fiance. And then once we move in, now we're having our own issues, right? This is our first time living together, being around each other. You got to get acquainted with this person.
Yeah, it's a whole different game.
It's like the relationship starts over.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So it's like we're back from like learning each other again, some type of thing. And, still so many challenges that come up, and so many moments that I have to like really look at myself, and during this time, like I just didn't know if I wanted to commit fully. And when I say that, I mean commit fully to my human revolution. I didn't know if I really, kind of like one of those things like on the fence. Like, am I really going to, I'm going to take these actions to do it, or, or I'm just going to say what it is. And then when the time comes, like, just like crumble. Yeah. And that happened a couple of times, Yeah, I think like one of the main things throughout that time was like really understanding appreciation. Like having appreciation for my father for letting me come back in there, for my fiance's mother for letting me live with them during that time, and then have appreciation for my partner, at that time, for us being able to really step up and take action with our own lives to really see what we wanted to see happen. At this point, like me and my dad, we have a really good relationship. We really have transformed so much at that point. And my dad, like, met my fiance now, and he also was just, they established their own relationship. And as well, it was really a sight to see, it was like actual proof to see like, oh wow, like my daimoku has really, me chanting has really, really done something. Because, seeing my dad be like, not even cordial, even more than cordial, like being inviting and laughing and like, joking with my partner, is like, whoa, like, like this is a whole nother person that I'm seeing.
Different. Yeah.
And so yeah, like it was amazing. We actually had a Thanksgiving, I think, at our house, and my dad and my stepmom came over. I cooked like the whole Thanksgiving dinner, me and my partner together.
Wow.
And, yeah, and like my partner's family came over, his cousins, his aunt, his mom, and stuff, and then like my family was there too. Some of my family was there too, just immediate.
Yeah.
And so that moment though for me, like, was really just like a lot for me. Like it was just, I mean, it was phenomenal for me. It was literally actual proof, you know? So at this point, like I'm just, and these are the like the deep things, like these are these deep type of transformations, right? These,
Yeah.
like, these deep benefits, Yeah, I didn't get a house, a car, or a new job, or whatever the case may be, but like I can see in reality my relationship with my father has totally transformed, you know, which was something that was so deep for me, and
Yeah.
because I'm a family guy and I'm all about my family, I love my family. And one of the reasons why I really, really have been with my partner as long as I have too is because I see he's a family person. And I love his family just as much as his family loves me, and same vice versa. And my family
Yeah.
loves him too as well. And so, off of the strength of just family, and we really talk about, in this practice about, having a harmonious family. And so, really diving into my practice and my chanting about having a harmonious family, and that was literally being actualized in front of my eyes. I made a vow, to myself, like, I wouldn't regress in my practice anymore. You know, like after all of these things had transformed, like, like, because I'm just put like this, like me and my fiance, when we met each other, we were rock bottom. I take a lot of pride in our that we like really started from like the bottom, like in a
Yeah.
lot of things, just in terms of just, I mean, even communication, I mean, relationships, it's just so much, right? That was like really started. So really kind of built this up. And then when we moved back to Atlanta, I made that vow that, like, like I have gained all of these benefits. I've really like been able to see, like, this practice actualize in my life. So I told myself, like I will not regress from here on out. Like from here, like I will not regress. I felt like at this point, like, wow, like now I'm not running away like from my problems in my life.
Yeah.
Like I'm actually being able to like face these problems head on. Like, and so like, right now I feel like everything that I kind of went through in my life leading up to now was like, it had to happen, right? It's like
100%. Yeah.
I don't feel like I would be the person that I am right now. I don't feel like I would have the type of mindset, the type of determination about my life, and to change things about my life if I did not fully dive into my practice, this Buddhist practice. Honestly, from seeing so many things transform in my life and change in my life, like I have total conviction that anything can change.
Yeah.
Anything. I will say that, like, being with someone, so being with someone, anyways, first of all, makes you look at yourself more.
Yes.
You look at life,
They're a
you analyze your
mirror.
life more.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of things that play into that, whether it be your own insecurities about a relationship. So like we still had to like just really had to like look at myself sometimes, not
Yeah.
sometimes, all the time.
All the time. Yep.
Yeah, even though sometimes I don't, but
Yeah. Yep.
that's
Yep.
me being real. But yeah, but like I feel so appreciative and fortunate that I have something in my life that I can be able to go to get back on track. When those things do happen within our lives, he really makes me challenge me in my practice and to really do the action of what this practice talks about and to actually live it. And it's still a challenge, right? It's like it's a practice, so it's not like I don't just have it right then and there, because I don't. Like somebody starting to play basketball, like I don't just have it right then and there. It's a practice. I have to go to a couple of practices. Then I don't know. So, and that's how I look at my Buddhist practice. It's like it's an ongoing journey of
always.
my life. But ultimately, like I feel like this is one thing I haven't run away from, and I probably have tried a lot of times.
But ultimately,
really challenging myself, because I'm really at a point where it's like I don't think it matters if I leave this relationship or not. I'm still gonna have issues.
Yeah, you're still gonna be the same person.
Same person, and I'm still gonna, my karma is just gonna follow me to the next relationship. It's not like it's gonna be like, oh, now you get to do something else now. No, you're still that person, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I loved what you said earlier about like that you were afraid of commitment, but not the commitment to the relationship necessarily, but the commitment to do your human revolution, which of course, you know, we talked about means like inner transformation. And this whole conversation has been about like being able to see yourself clear, like honestly, and then like, okay, I'm gonna change this. The change starts with me. And I think like, yeah, hearing you now, like it does seem so clear that like, I think like because you're like, I don't know, it seems like throughout your 20s there's like all of these moments of like, okay, I'm gonna face a little bit more, I'm gonna face a little bit more, until you got like strong enough that you could be like, okay, I'm not gonna run away from facing myself, you know, I'm not gonna run away from whatever my tendencies are, which is like, man, that's hard to do. That is so incredible.
I think it's still like, you know, for me, you know, obviously, depending on my life condition,
the tendency is still
go back
there.
Into my natural tendency.
It's always still there.
It's still there. That little come out sometimes. You know, but it does make me reflect more though now. Though, like when it does happen, like I can reflect more on myself. Like, I don't think I really didn't handle that right, or I didn't handle it right. And I may not like voice that out loud to my partner or to a friend or whoever, you know, but internally I know.
Yeah.
You know, and I do the work myself. I go, you know, and chant and be able to get back into my study and figure out why am I reverting back to this type of thing. And so I've been having so many instances come up where like my ego is triggered, you know, and like I'm like, am I gonna go there? And then like, and I have, I'm not gonna lie, like I have, you know, gone there in some instances, or probably could have handled something a little bit better. But I think really the human evolution aspect is that I can realize that, and I can say it to myself, and I know that it's actively in my heart to transform and change, and to continue to practice in those moments. Because me, it's like those crucial moments is where it gets me. Like, you know, just like that perfect storm setting. And knowing that, realizing in that moment it's a crucial moment, you know, and it's that moment that, are you going to, you know, going back to what I said, are you going to commit to your human revolution, or are you going to go back to those, you know, lesser tendencies of yourself?
And it's a crucial moment because like every time we decide to like, okay, I'm going to face myself, I'm going to face the thing that I don't want to see, every time you make that decision, you're like strengthening your ability to do so, you know? And of course, like we're saying, you know, it's not that every single time that comes up, oh, I choose that, but it's easier to do it. I do it more often. And that's like how you change. That's like those internal like decision moments are what really like change who you are and change the trajectory of your life. So.
Because then when you actually do and you see a different outcome, then it's like, oh wow, like, okay, so this feels way better than what I felt like when I handled it the other way. You know, it just feels better in the sense of it, not only just being right, but like it feels better. It actually like I don't feel like so heavy, and I'm not like second guessing every word that I just said and how I said it.
I was like holding on to this thing that like actually once I like had the courage to like let it go, wow, I feel so much better. I didn't need to hold on to that anger or that arrogance or whatever. Like we've been sort of doing this, what's the right word? Like a retrospective on your 20s. And I'm wondering like throughout that time when you look back and reflect, what you feel like was the biggest factor in you becoming somebody that can really now face things, challenge them head on, decide that, okay, I'm going to choose my human revolution instead of running away.
Yeah, I think it's really me being able to see what part do I have in it, right? So like, I think it's so easy for us to say, this person did this, or this person did this to me, or I'm going through this because if they would have never did this, then I wouldn't be in this situation, or whatever the case may be. It's so easy to do that. But I think when I really realized that I am the like driver of my life, like I am in the driver's seat of my life, I make every decision. And I think what this is like, I made the ultimate decision to always find where I am a contributing factor in the situation. And what can I be able to do for my own life, right? That I can be able to change this circumstance and instance. Take responsibility for whatever it is. And I think that's the main thing, like taking responsibility for my part in anything. And I think that is what is really, I feel, have kept me and my partner together as long as we have. We just hit our 5-year anniversary, May 20th of being together. And so this is my longest relationship I've ever been in. And we've never broken up. We've never had a break or nothing. You know, we have been together. And another thing is, like, you know, sometimes it's not always right then and there that we both take responsibility, but it's the simple fact that that's the resolution at the end of the day, you know. And we love each other so much. So, but I think in every other situation too, not just my relationship, right? Like in every relationship with anybody, and even with my work, even with school when I, you know, in college, like just all of those. That's what I was missing, was me taking responsibility for why I am this in my life, and then taking responsibility for my life to understand in terms of, you know, Buddhism. So now when I'm going through things, I can really see these things as like, wow, I have an opportunity when this comes up to either transform this part of my life or stay in it. What do I want to do? But now that's where I'm at in my life. You know, that's my mindset when I go through situations with anybody. And it's really helped me propel in my life. And it's really helped me establish solid relationships with people.